That's the 12. That's the top pivot bolt for the power steering pump, so we can get this belt off. Dang. All that for that. But it's off. So now we got to get the pulley, the crank pulley off. So that's where we're at. Right here. Pain in the butt. Didn't snap a bolt. I thought I was going to shear this off. The holder tool I have is not made for this, so we can't get both of those bolts in. It does have opening for two. But we only got the one on, so the next challenging part will be getting this pulley off if it doesn't just slide off, which I doubt it will. Of course not, but I have pullers. We're gonna get this off. The hardest part, I believe, is getting that bolt off, and the next hardest part is going to get that crank pulley off. But once we do, we're going to clean that up with like an emery cloth and put some anti-seize on it, just so we don't have like an issue with the pulley coming off in the future. For the future person who's going to do the timing belt job on this. But I'm happy I got that bolt off. I think Superman put that on, like, yeah, that's a monster of a bolt. But it's off, and then we're going to use the same rig to torque when we get done. But yeah. All right, that covers off. What I try to do when I get all the covers off and stuff like that is try to keep the bolts where they're supposed to go. Like you notice, there's a longer bolt like on the back side. Keep that separate from the short one. And to do that, I usually try to put the bolts back in the covers and back in the spots where they're supposed to go. That's our motor mount, or wishbone, or dog bone, whatever you want to call it, motor mount. I try to keep all that stuff like where it needs to go, so when we have to reassemble, it makes life easy. All you got to do is just match the spots. Even like on the alternator, put the bolt just back in, just so you keep track of stuff. And also lengths of bolts do differ, so or differentiate, or you get what I'm saying. I just keep track of that stuff. But right now we're gonna just go back in. I put the little crank bolt back in there, so we gotta just make sure we double check our timing before we start taking off the belts and everything like that. Our timing marks already are marked. As I was taking off, we did rotate this, so I'm gonna rotate it through until we get our match marks. There's like a little, I don't know if you can pick that up, a little peek hole. It has to match up behind this, but then also you'll see like they put a mark already, because the time belt I guess already has been done before, right there to match that up. All right, and I just temporarily put that crank pulley back on there just to check the timing marks, and the timing belt cover on there just to get the timing marks lined up to double check. I believe that was at top dead center for number 1 cylinder, but we have our marks. They're aligned right there, and then also you look down there on the crank pulley, that little notch lined up with the 0, so we're at top dead center right now. We're going to keep that there. To get this belt off, if you're just replacing the timing belt itself, should probably do water pump at the same time. I do have a kit, full kit in the box over there, belt, water pump, but we got to remove the tension off of this bolt right here, our tensioner. The kit comes with a new tensioner and pulley, I believe. So let's get that off. We'll get the belt off, and then we're gonna go through. I got water pump. I'm gonna replace, probably do a seal on that oil pump at the bottom. It seemed a little moist. All right, and you relieve the tension, you tighten that bolt back up to keep it loose, and then the belt to just come off. Let's work it slow. And then remember the orientation, but in the instructions it'll show you like how it goes. But down, around, and up, over. You can remove this to replace it if your kit came with a new pulley tensioner. Yeah, that's that. Water pump also is right here. We do have an idler pulley down there. Always just check just to make sure you don't have any free play in these bearings. If they feel rough or there's a lot of play, don't reuse them. You probably shouldn't reuse them anyway if you got a kit. It just comes with the stuff. Just throw the new stuff on there. As for the kit, get some grease-free gloves. So new tensioner, idler pulley, and tensioner spring, and water. So to remove the water pump, you have your thermostat out housing right here. You have to drain your coolant, of course. Coolant will come out, so just keep that in mind. But for the mounting bolts locations, you have 1, 2, 3, and I believe maybe 4. This is what I use kind of like when I have to just get everything off. I usually look at these and make sure all this hardware is tight. Sometimes the factory can forget to tighten these, so double check those. But yeah. Oh, and new belt versus the old bolt right here. So old belt looks fine. I don't see like any cracking or anything like that. It looks cool. So you could reuse that. Mainly replacing it because there's some leaks. It looks like the oil pump and the main thing is the coolant. If you look under the car, that wet spot, that's coolant, just drips. So it's coming from, I believe the water pump is leaking. So I want to get that switched out before you have any crazy issues. That, and then gaskets, O-rings to reseal, because you do have like your coolant pipes that come into here. These you have to replace. Those will be leaking also. And then I do have Velcro like gasket kit. It does have like I believe the front main oil pump seal and the oil pump housing little gasket on the back side depending on the type, and then also the little O-ring that goes around it. So we just have reseal kit since we're in there. Let that go for a while. While that goes, I need to clean up. Shouldn't be tripping over stuff, but let that do its thing. And also, if you use a clean bucket, you could reuse your coolant as long as you make sure you don't get dirt and stuff in there. I'm gonna reuse that. But yeah, choose your own discretion, because like I just changed the radiator out, so it's fresh coolant, and I'm not trying to waste the coolant. So like I know it's good. It's fresh and we're not gonna waste money. So yeah, but cleanup time for me. All right, for water pump, the thermostat right here, housing is in there. There's two little water pipes that go in, the metal ones. There's two 10 millimeters back there that hold that on. Remove those. Remove the two 10s right here. Unbolt the 10s that hold this on, and this will come out. Make sure you have a catch pan under there. Coolant will come out. Yeah. All right, so I got the pan dropped once again. I'm gonna have to reseal the pan, but right now it's just kind of catch the oil that'll drip as it's off. But the oil pickup is what's keeping this front cover from coming off. Do not pry. Don't force things. Like I gently like get stuff like unloose, but like I don't like force it. Like if it feels like it's coming out like slow, I don't force it. Try to figure out why, and then I was like, oh, I'm special. I was thinking the oil pickup needs to be disconnected to get that cover off. So if you don't want to deal with that, don't replace that seal. But since I have like the whole seal kit and I have like the water pump, timing belt, all that stuff removed, I just want to go ahead and just get it all sealed up, so it's like one less worry that you have to worry about in the future. So be I don't know, proactive, and yeah. But yeah, I believe 10 millimeters. Make sure you have a clean wrench. I brake cleaned this so it's clean, especially if you're dealing with oil. You don't want that to go in your oil pan, so be mindful of that. But two 10 millimeters, I'm gonna remove that. Just undoing these two sides, and then it should come out, and we'll get that cleaned up. We'll throw it back in when we get our seals and everything on there. Yeah. So I could just remove the whole pickup, or like the pan's gotta come off anyway. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna remove this just to get this out the way so I have more room to work. And then before I put the pan back on, I'll have this cover set so that way it's centered with our front main seal, so it doesn't have any resistance like with this spring action pulling on it, and it gets centered where it needs to be, and we'll get that torque down, and then we'll get that mounted. right, new gasket on there. Make sure all your lines, your holes align. We do have probably like a little interference right there. I'm just gonna cut that back just a little bit. Everything else looks good. Make sure all your pressure relief valve oil passages are clear. Think surgical when you're thinking about your oil. You don't want debris to get in there and cause any starvation. So make sure all that is good to go. Excuse the noise in the background. Somebody else is working on stuff too. So yeah. All right, get all those in. All those will be torqued to 8 foot-pounds. Do nice little crisscross pattern just to spread out the torque or the surface area evenly to make sure that gets all settled. But for the oil pump, there's like a oil pump gear. You have to rotate the sprocket for it to line up correctly. And the silicone definitely, or sealant, definitely helps keep that seal in place so it doesn't fall. You won't be able to get that in unless you have it like on a flat surface, and then you put that in first and then torque it, then you'll be good. But like if it's on the vehicle, you need to use some adhesive to get that to go in. But once it's in, just firmly press down. Just make sure it's down without too much force, because if that seal gets buckled or pinched, it won't seal. You'll have a nice little oil leak. So keep that in mind. Water pump is coming in right now, right here. I'm gonna just wipe that down one more time, get that put in. Seal here, seal here, seal there, and it goes back in. Add some silicone spray to help have that seal over the little O-ring right there, so that doesn't roll over itself. The O-ring doesn't roll. Put everything in, and I do have my bolts. As I set them over to the side in the old pump, so I know exactly where the old bolts go. Definitely do that because there's different lengths. You don't want to play a guessing game, or hopefully you're recording, you can go back and double check, because I just did a little bit of that with the oil pump in the cover, so I had a couple of the bolts off by just a little bit. But like, you definitely don't want a long bolt in a short hole. That's not good. But yeah. All right, so that's on. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna torque everything to 8 foot-pounds evenly torqued. You can even do like 2 sets to like 4 and then 8, or 6 and 8. That's how I usually like to spread it out. But right now I'm just gonna use this to get everything like tighten to the point where it's at the point to torque. I'm not going to use this to tighten everything because I want to make sure I have that stuff torqued correctly. We don't have any issues. And then when we have that in, we'll put our timing gear back onto the crank, and we'll get our timing belt on, we'll get our pulleys put on, we'll get that set, and also double check to make sure you still have your timing marks lined up once you get everything like assembled. This is a non-interference engine, so it's off a little bit. It's not too bad. Like meaning, so like don't put the belt on with it off just a little bit, but like just so like you can still have wiggle room, like if it did like turn just a little bit. But let me get this stuff torqued down. 8 foot-pounds. We still have to put our thermostat housing back on the neck. There's 2 bolts back there also, or nuts. I dropped one. I have to find it. But yeah, but everything put back in and torqued back up to this point right here, and then we'll get our bracket put back in for our motor mount right here. Our alternator still has to get put back in. We still have to torque our crate bolt. Still have to reseal the oil pan. I'm not going to show you me resealing the oil pan. I already previously did that, so this is round 2 for me. And then also don't forget your oil pickup tube. That's torqued to 8 foot-pounds also. Double check and make sure that is torqued. You don't want that not to be torqued. You don't get oil pressure, you ruin your motor. So double check that one. If you don't torque anything, torque those. Make sure those are good. You want oil pressure, you need oil pressure. But we're gonna get everything put back together, and yeah, or torque to the point of the timing belt. Yeah. Okay, so we have our marks already lined up. Our cam sprockets exactly where we had it before we took the belt off. You want everything top dead center, number 1 top dead center. And then for our crank, there is, let's see if we'll be able to pick up top, there's like a little, get some light back there. As you can see, there's a timing mark right there where it's lined up. When you have it lined at top dead center, the correct position will be with the keyways for the crank at 12 o'clock. Not 12 o'clock like if you're just standing there, but like the block is kind of tilted. So 12 o'clock for the block, and you'll have that time mark correctly where it's supposed to be. When you put your belt on, you're going to stop with your idler pulley number 1, the one with the spring, and then you work your way down. So we work from up top, we go around our cam pulley. So I put this down, you still can see. So cam pulley, you come around, do 1, come around, and then do 2. So you're working away from the top down, and you want to make sure you don't have any slack in that. And also, with your idler pulley with the spring, you want to make sure you have the tension as far off as possible, just so there's no slack in that. Make life easier for you. So you're coming down, around, back down here. Okay, and you want to make sure when you have this on, there's no tension. Like, this is the side you want to have no slack if possible on it going down around to your crank pulley. So make sure this is tight. So there's going to be play on this side. That'll be okay. All the slack will be taken out once you release the pressure on the spring, because you have your oil pump drive there, so that it has free play, and this will just tighten that up and you will be good to go. So now, since we have that on, we'll release, and there's your trigger. So we have that on. I like to try to get the belt pushed as far back as possible. As you can do, throw your crank bolt back in, rotate it until you get it back to top dead center. It's probably going to take like 2 full rotations to get it back to where it's supposed to be right now. Do that to just make sure everything lines up. That's the best way to do it, the safe way, before you put everything back on, because if you do need to adjust, you can go back through and readjust. So actually I'll do that now. But we got our spring, and then also remember, once you release the pressure with this bolt right here, you want to tighten that back up before you finish. And that's one time around. Marks line up down there. They don't line up right there, so you keep going to our timing marks. Already have a marked line up. That, or there's like a little peephole right there where that be lined up back in there. So we're just gonna keep on rotating until we have this aligned. Should probably do one more lap around. That, and we're lined up, so we're good. So that's the timing belt install. Right now we're just going to go back through and reinstall everything we took off. Our alternator needs to go back in, our bracket for the alternator needs to go back in, our motor mount or wishbone needs to go back in, also our thermostat housing needs to go back in. That needs to be tightened. I still need to tighten those 2 nuts that go onto those studs right there in the back right there. Those need to go on. So right now the hard part is done. Seals are done, water pump is done, timing belt is in, it's timed, it's correct. So now it's just reassemble, throw all your covers back on, and hopefully you're keeping track of your bolts and just making sure you kept them in the right place, because everything has a different size. Like I have like my bolts and stuff still hanging in the covers on those back there also, just to make life easy. If you did that, it should be real easy to throw back in. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for checking out the video. Hopefully you found it useful, helpful, informative, and educational. But anyways, definitely keep up on your maintenance, and just keep yourself off the side of the road. A little bit of preventative maintenance now could just save you a whole lot of headaches in the future. So yeah, it's not too bad once you do it now. Like, if you ever do it again in the future, it'll be a lot easier, it'll be a lot faster. But now you can say you actually did your job yourself. So I'll catch you on the next one. Peace, TJ.